Hey, it's a beautiful day here, finally, in New England. Got the Triumph, drove it to work today, so I'm going to be doing a little moto vlog on the way home. If I could do it again when I buy the same bike, would I recommend this bike? And I think I'm going to give some advice to anybody thinking about buying the bike or someone who just has. So stick around and see what I got to say about it. So this video is going to be my 3,000 mile review, and I guess I'll start with my advice. If you're looking to buy a bike, or if you just bought a bike, I'm sure you've done all your research online, looked at forums and videos and all that, and that's great. But here's what I would say to you. If you buy the bike, or if you bought the bike, do your 500 miles. Don't change a thing to the bike. Do your 500 miles till you get to your first service, and then do another 500 miles. Don't change a thing on the bike. Keep it stock. Get used to it, and get through your break-in period with your, RPMs and all that stuff, and see how you like the bike. Now, if you've been on the forums and all that, you're gonna be confused. People are going to tell you to do a decat, put a booster plug in, get a tuner, change the tires, do all this stuff. Other people love spending your money. And if you don't have a baseline, that you've actually got used to the bike and rode it for 1,000 miles, you're not going to know whether you really like that or not until you've been on the bike. So my advice is ride it for 1,000 miles and then decide. You may decide, like me, that you really don't need to change anything, or you may say, hey, I want it a little louder, I want a little more performance. So, and of course everybody likes performance. So maybe you want to go that route. But if you look deep enough, there's been a few people who've done the decat and then have put the cat back on again. I guess they didn't like the noise or something about it. Anyway, so that's my advice to you. And of course take my advice with a grain of salt, because it's just another piece of information that you may or may not want to listen to. So now, would I buy the bike again? Absolutely. For me, this bike fits my needs. Like I said before, I use this as a commuter bike, which is what I'm doing now. Coming home from work. It's, I did take some highway. I did take some highway before I got on these roads. I didn't really show that because it's kind of boring. It's boring for me, it'll be boring for you. It's kind of hectic. But these are the kind of roads I take home when I'm on the bike. If I'm in my truck, I just take highway all the way home. But yeah, not on this. These are some fun turns. People, you know, hate the stock tires that come with this bike. I mean, I'm 100% sure there's better tires out there. For me, I've had no issues with these tires. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't waste my money replacing them until they, you know, actually wear out. I think they've gotten better as I put more miles on this bike. The things that I have done to this bike is I've put spacers on the risers. I got them on eBay there. I think they were like 30 bucks or something like that. Just to get the bars a little higher so I'm not leaning over as far. I also did tech front fork springs. And the reason I did that was I didn't like the feel of the front brake when I was, you know, braking heavy, braking before turning. Driving on a road like this, I don't think there's any difference between the stock spring and the tech spring. But I thought the braking was weak before, and I put these tech springs on, and I think because the nose isn't diving and you're not getting all that weight on the front wheel, the brakes actually feel, the front brakes actually feel a lot better. And going into a turn without all that weight being on the front wheel, trying to drive it forward, I think it handles much, much better turning. Like I said, straight line bumps, I don't think there's much of a difference. But handling turning, much better. And I think that might be why I don't mind these tires. I don't seem to have an issue with them. Even in the wet. It was pouring earlier today while I was at work. Nice and sunny now. So back to what I was saying before I got sidetracked. Yes, I would definitely buy this bike again. Now, would I recommend this bike? You might think this is kind of weird. I would not recommend it to everybody, and for obvious reasons. If you're a sport bike rider, I don't think you're going to be happy with this bike. You know, if you want speed, yeah, this is not the bike for you. If you want to do, you know, dual purpose, on-road, off-road, I wouldn't recommend this bike. There's a lot better bikes you can get for that purpose. Touring, you could put a windshield on this, you could put bags on it, and you could certainly go touring on it. And as far as a tourer goes, it's probably, you know, at a good price range. I have other bikes that I use for touring. So, you know, to me, this is a day out and back, few hour ride bike, a back and forth to work bike, and all that. But if someone said to me, hey, I'm looking for a retro bike, do you think this is a good bike? Do you recommend it? And yes, absolutely, I would recommend this bike to you. The thing that this bike has that I really do like is torque. I would much rather prefer a bike with torque than a bike with horsepower. And I know a lot of you know the difference between torque and horsepower. But if there's any of those of you out there who don't, I'll give you my description of it. Now, everybody's got their own description of the difference between torque and horsepower. So don't beat me up too bad about this. Torque is the force that gets you moving. Okay, so a dump truck. A dump truck needs a lot of low-end torque to get it moving. A dump truck is not looking at 0 to 60 times. It's not looking to do 150 miles an hour. It needs its power to get it going and keep it going. Horsepower. Horsepower is what gets you top-end speed. Horsepower is what you need. Let's say you're doing 60, 70 miles an hour and you have a lot of wind force. Horsepower is what's needed to accelerate you through that and keep you going up to a higher speed. So a Formula One car, really light, a lot of horsepower, gets you up, 200 something miles an hour. If you took that Formula One engine and put it in a dump truck, that dump truck isn't going anywhere. You'll burn out the clutch before you get that thing to roll. Sport bikes, a lot of horsepower. But look where they live. They live up around the 10, 11,000 RPM range. This bike, the torque, maximum torque's around 3,000 RPM, which to me is far more usable than high horsepower at 10,000 RPM. So I want those of you who have friends with sport bikes, here's something you can do. Get on the highway, get going around 65 miles an hour, both of you, side by side, both of you in top gear, this bike in 6th gear, his bike in 6th gear. Now, without downshifting, hit the throttle. You might be a little surprised at what happens. This thing at 3,000 RPM, right in its torque range, you don't have to downshift. You're going to accelerate right there and start passing cars. Now for that sport bike, what he really needs to do is probably downshift 2 or 3 times to hit those RPMs, to get him going. Because when he hits the throttle, if he doesn't downshift, he's not in his power band, he's well below it. He'll pick up and he'll eventually blow right by you. But at first, he's not going to. All right, enough about torque and horsepower, but that's why I like this bike. That's why I like the torque of this bike. I like where it lives. I mean, look at me right now. I'm in 3rd gear doing 40 miles an hour and I'm right around 3,000 RPM. It's right where this bike needs to be if I wanted to accelerate. Look at those tires gripping. Some people are going to hate me for this comment. way, did you notice I'm wearing gloves? For those of you who commented about me not wearing gloves, I didn't wear them for you. It's actually just a little cool today. Why do you care what I wear? Care about what you wear. We're bikers, we're free, right? We can do what we want. Because you wear gloves doesn't mean I have to. We don't have a helmet law in this state. How many of you would give me crap if I wasn't wearing a helmet? Anyway, 3,000 miles, no issues. Love the bike. Yes, I'd buy it again. I'd recommend it to anyone looking for a retro bike, a bike styled like this. Absolutely. Go out and buy one. I don't think you'll have any regrets. If you're gonna buy this bike to take it and turn it into something it's not, you probably bought the wrong bike to begin with. Go out and find something, you know, that suits you better. All right. It's been fun. I've got to hop back on the highway. There'll be more coming up on the channel, so stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.